Tonight, Southern Hemisphere seasons begin with trouble already brewing. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for November 1st. New developments in the form of Tropical Storm Lisa are developing. Meanwhile, Nalgae is back up to typhoon status and 27W receives a name. Welcome Banyan to the club as we enter November 2022. That took a bit of a while. In the Atlantic on day 154 we have newly named Lisa, in which tropical storm and hurricane watches and warnings are in effect for Central America. More details in due course. And up north we have an extratropical cyclone in the form of Invest 96L with a 30% chance to form into anything tropical or subtropical. This analysis of course being our internal team's estimate. Nothing is in the pipeline for the foreseeable future in the Eastern Pacific on day 171 of hurricane season. Could Roslyn have been the end to what was an incredibly active season? We can only wait to find out. So, on the other side of the world, Nalgae has regained typhoon status in the South China Sea, and Banyan newly named off the coast of the Philippines, although not expected to do a whole lot. Quiet times resume in the North Indian Ocean with nothing tropical ongoing in this part of the world, as is the norm for this time of year. However, down south, 93S remains with a 60% chance of formation and is actually moved into the Australian region, with it being located right now at 90.2 degrees east, which, like I said, puts it into the Australian region. Speaking of the Australian region, remains quiet with nothing active here, although cyclone season usually starts up around this time of year for this region. Obviously, like I said, it just started up. Nothing much is happening right now. It might take a few weeks, it might take a few months, you never know. And once again, it's the same story with the Southern Pacific. Nothing active here as cyclone season starts up today. Give it a few weeks, who knows what's in store for us, is what I'm trying to say. Right, so Lisa is looking picturesque on satellite tonight as it heads towards the west, towards Belize. Meanwhile, an extratropical cyclone with a 30% chance of developing into anything subtropical or even tropical persists to the northeast of Bermuda. Once again, no activity is happening here in the Eastern Pacific. Perhaps the season is pretty much done, which in my book is a good thing. Sorry Ethan, but your basin sucks. In the Western Pacific, Nalgae regaining typhoon status with a rather huge influence in the South China Sea. And on the other side of the Philippines, Banyan is close to the coast, but it is not quite expected to make it there. You will see in just a moment. And in case you wanted close-ups of those systems, here you go. However, there is nothing active in the Indian Ocean, which as of this time of year is rather to be expected. We had Sitrang quite a while ago, so who knows what is up in store for us. But as the North Hemisphere seasons wind down, the Southern Hemisphere seasons start up. And once again, 93S continuing to persist after crossing over to the Australian region, in which we retain our 60% chance for this to form into anything significant. Elsewhere in this region, nothing much is going on tropical activity-wise. And nothing much is going on in the South Pacific either, given that cyclone season just started down here, so it could be a while before we start to see any tropical activity begin. That includes for the South Indian, even though 93S is there, the Australian region and the South Pacific. And that includes on the other side of the anti-meridian as well. So according to the NHC forecast, Lisa is expected to traverse westwards, eventually headed towards Belize, where a hurricane watch is in place. Elsewhere, tropical storm watches and warnings are in place for the entire northern coast of Honduras and a portion of the eastern coast of Mexico, as well as the entire coast of Jamaica. So Nalgae is expected to continue northward as a typhoon, and then is expected to weaken as it begins a westward motion and does pretty much the largest U-turn that I've ever seen in my time tracking tropical typhoons and hurricanes, before eventually ending up over the Hainan Peninsula. Banyan isn't expected to last long, seeing as it's only a tropical depression on this cone, but according to our analysis, it's a tropical storm, hence the green background. However, it is expected to continue westward, dying before even reaching the Philippines. Poor Banyan. So here's a closer look at Tropical Storm Lisa, currently at 15.4 degrees north and 78.6 degrees west, currently with a wind speed of 45 miles an hour and a central pressure of 1002 millibars. It is expected to continue westward, maintaining tropical storm strength, but just prior to landfall, as you'll see in just a moment here, it is expected to strengthen into a hurricane before weakening rather quickly back down to a tropical depression over land. So here is Typhoon Nalgae, right now a Category 1 equivalent typhoon, currently at 18.6 degrees north and 115.8 degrees east. This typhoon currently has a wind speed of 85 miles an hour and a central pressure of 970 millibars. It is forecasted to weaken from this point onwards as it commences a U-turn to the northwest and eventually completes its fairly large U-turn just off the coast of China, ending up eventually on the coast of Hainan as a tropical depression. And finally, here is a look at Banyan tropical storm status, currently located at 7.3 degrees north and exactly 129 degrees east, with a wind speed of 45 miles an hour and a central pressure of exactly 1000 millibars. Banyan is not expected to last long, fizzling out over open waters before getting a chance to even reach the coastline of the Philippines. Once again, poor Banyan is not expected to do much, probably won't do much. It's a disappointment. I'm sorry to say it, but that's the case. Onto the models, and Lisa is expected to strengthen for quite a bit, possibly a bit too much by one model, due to shear being fairly moderate for this system, between 10 to 20 knots for all depicted models here throughout their runs, as sea surface temperatures remain favourable and mid-level relative humidity increasing and eventually getting above that suitable for development threshold, but only very briefly. So Nalgae is supposedly done, as the models expect this system to weaken from this point onwards, as shear fluctuates for a small while before getting into really high levels, as well as sea surface temperatures and mid-level relative humidity continuing to drop below favourable levels. So that's it, Nalgae is pretty much done. Models don't expect anything from the system at all. And finally, Banyan is not expected to do much on the models, apart from one outlier which will be ignored, as shear, whilst already high, will drop to favourable levels. Not only that, but sea surface temperatures and mid-level relative humidity also remain favourable, which seems rather promising for this system, so we will have to see what really happens, and we can only wait it out. Alright, with the serious stuff done, don't forget you can go to our merch store where you can buy things such as individual animations, mugs, and most importantly, pillows, which Nathan will proceed to talk and I can't hear what he said, probably plotting about throwing pillows against me. Also worth mentioning is our line of Still Waiting for Holiday shirts, marking over 1,000 days of waiting for one storm that clearly does not want to come out to the party. Moving on, the West Pacific remains piping hot with roughly around 29 degree waters, with pockets of 30 in and around the equatorial regions, the Bay of Bengal remaining 28 degrees, the Arabian Sea also largely 28, with the tropical Atlantic remaining relatively warm in the main development region, and the tropical Eastern and Central Pacific remaining also 28, with small dips of 27 degrees. The Southern Hemisphere is also beginning to warm up as their cyclone seasons begin to start up. On to the anomalies, the eastern and central Pacific mostly above average, the west Pacific remaining once again unchanged with warmer than average waters, the Atlantic remaining mostly above, the Bay of Bengal also remaining above average, the Arabian Sea mostly above but notable areas of below. La Nina still very noticeable in the equatorial regions of the eastern Pacific and still going incredibly strong. Oceanic heat content in the Caribbean is definitely noticeable, especially south of Jamaica, which is where Lisa is right about now, or near enough around that point. The main development region is quite full of energy as well, especially towards the coast of South America, as noted by the patch of red. The West Pacific still remains full of energy towards the equatorial region, but as always it's tailing off the further eastwards you go, and it practically drops off a cliff as you approach Hawaii and go beyond that point. And in the South Pacific it's incredibly prevalent by the equatorial regions here, most notably off the coast of PNG and extending all the way out towards and beyond Fiji. On this day in 1997, Super Typhoon Keith was peaking with an incredible wind speed of 180 miles an hour just to the east of the islands of Rota and Tinian in the Northern Mariana Islands. The following day it would pass between the two islands, not making landfall, but destroying over 800 homes across both islands. Also active today, 25 years ago, was Tropical Storm Linda and Cyclone Martin, Keith's twin cyclone. Alright, and that's that done. The next name in the Atlantic naming list is Martin, followed by Nicole. Up next in the Eastern Pacific, if we even get there, is Seymour, followed by Tina. And up next for over 1,000 days, or probably closer to 1,100 days at this point, we are still waiting on Hone. When will we ever get that storm? Up next in the West Pacific is Yamanaka, followed by Pakar. And up next in the North Indian Ocean is Mandus, followed by Mocha. Bringing things down under where their cyclone seasons have just started. Up next in the Australian region is Darien, followed by Ellie. Up next in the Southwest Indian is Chinesso, followed by Dingani. And up next in the South Pacific is Harley, followed by Irene. That's all from me for now. We'll see you for another Tropical Weather Bulletin tomorrow night.